Okay, we're into an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool prototype preview for you guys from the brand Erebus. A little about them. They are driven and founded by Jody Musgrove of YouTube's Just One More Watch and his partner and avid watch collector Stephen Parker. They aim to offer the best made watches with the best specifications at the best prices, and all with a personal service and attention to clients that you really just don't get from the big brands. Now, in terms of the type of watch, I consider this an everyday watch. Some key characteristics and design when you're looking for something that you can wear every day. You're really just going to want that versatile blend of both sporty and dressy attributes. This is their Ascent model, showcased here in the Aventurine dial as well as the orange Fume dial. It's their first go anywhere, do anything or GATA sports watch design, and it's meant to be worn on any occasion, whether it's the office, a night out, a hike, or even a swim. These are going to be available in a couple different price points depending on which dial option you get. At the top of the range, you're going to have $399 for the mineral dials, whether it be the Aventurine or the Malachite dial. And then kind of on the entry side, you're going to have the $349 Fume options as well as glossy enamel dial options. Somewhere in the middle, you're going to find their $379 offering with a kind of Grand Seiko-like helix textured dial pattern, which looks really great. Honestly, interestingly enough, each one of those different dials, not just colors wise mixes things up, it actually can make the watch feel very different in terms of just even kind of the genre bending that's happening, because some of them feel a lot more dressy or a lot more sporty or a lot more kind of classical than the others. And some dials, like let's say this Aventurine dial, definitely makes it feel like a true microbrand darling, while let's say one of their plain glossy enamel dials make it feel kind of like just an everyday champ of a watch. So very interesting, and I'm really appreciative of Jody for sending me these two to share with you guys before I have to pass them on to the next reviewer. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, now before we dive in, quick little show here, because this is a newer brand. Not everyone knows what their packaging looks like. So you can see little kind of leatherette style zip travel box, which does come with room for 2 watches. And then you're going to have some really cool stuff. Hey, a little thank you from the guys over there, as well as your warranty card. So very cool, and I think very useful in terms of that packaging. These are, of course, just prototypes, so they kind of shipped independent of that, and and really that's more of a showcase piece versus something that these were really packed in. These were just kind of sent over in some little Pelican cases to kind of protect them along the way. But with that said, let's actually take a closer look at these 2 beauties. Now, something that I really want to get out of the way here is that I think there's a lot of value in these pieces. And so as long as you like the aesthetic, as long as you think these are cool looking watches that you wouldn't mind having on your wrist, there's a lot of value that you're going to get. And I can tell very much that a YouTuber was involved in these, because pretty much every single thing that people have their moans and niggles about and complaints about watches are personified here. So you're getting an applied logo, you're getting a framed 6 o'clock date, screw down crown, you're getting extra levels of quality, on the handset, higher grades, right? Because we know that this brand wasn't, it's not made by a couple engineers. This is not vertically integrated, right? They sourced parts, and they've created these pieces. And, a lot of the times you're going to be kind of weighing out the options of different quality levels versus different price points. Here, it looks like they opted for some really nice pieces that definitely were on the higher end of what factories will make available. And they're still offering it to you as the consumer at a much lower price with very little markup. So, value proposition. These are very strong, especially considering that Just One More Watch brand is quite strong. So it's not like it's just somebody you don't know, somebody that could just disappear. This is somebody, in terms of Jody, where he's been around, he's experienced a lot of watches, and I think he's definitely, you can feel the know-how that went into the spec on these pieces. Now, when we look at these cases, there's a lot of great features, guys. Look at this beautiful undercut, beautiful bevel, nice flowing bezel there that kind of goes with the organic lines. And there's even a very thin stripe of a satin brushing that kind of separates those two polished bevels. And I think it works really well. Yes, there are going to be some things that are more right out of the parts catalog, like a Jubilee style bracelet, but what they didn't do was cheap out on the clasp. They gave the people what they wanted, and you get this very nice micro adjusting clasp that has a toolless micro adjust with 5 different positions. So you can set it and forget it. And you're also getting shorter links on this style of bracelet, that Jubilee style, which is very nice, versus here, a little bit longer links. Would have been nice if they offered half links, but you also do have that toolless micro adjustment available if you want to dial in the perfect fit. The swing arms, everything, it's all milled. There's nice chamfers, signed clasp, signed crown. Again, it's all of those little things and kind of those little points of contention that a lot of enthusiasts bring up in pretty much every other video. And it's to say, hey, look, this is what we would like. And again, I think this is very much a watch that is targeting those enthusiasts. With that, there's a lot on here that a casual buyer will not recognize the quality of. They won't understand the extra level of care that goes into the beveling of these applied indices, or the fume graduated aspect of that dial where it's going to fade into the darkness, or the fact that everything is solid and you're getting screw in links in terms of that construction, or quick release spring bars. There's a lot that, a lot of folks probably won't be able to appreciate. So I don't think this is necessarily the watch to get maybe a gift for your casual non-watch collector. I think this is one where you're going to get the most value by, either buying it for yourself as an enthusiast or as a gift to your fellow enthusiast, because there's so many little details that really the enthusiast eye is only going to catch. But I will also say, at the price point, I think there's a lot of folks that are just going to like this based off of the raw specs, bullet points, and design be damned. They will just see the bullet points and it has everything they want: sapphire, hacking hand wide movement, smooth 4-hertz sweep, etc. Down to screw links, quick adjust micro, quick adjusting clasp with there's so many different specs and bullet points that it can even be a tongue twister, guys. So milled bracelet with toolless micro adjustment there, and even quick release spring bar. So in terms of having that sapphire AR coating, screw down crown to give you a confidence inspiring 10 atmospheres or 100 meters of water resistance, there's a lot there. And I know I just kind of ran through all that, but very quickly, in terms of the specs, 38.5 millimeters in diameter, 11 millimeters thick, and that's including that single domed crystal, and 44.5 millimeters lug to lug. And 44.5 millimeters lug to lug, especially on this bracelet with the female articulation, that is going to cause a really nice drape, and it's going to be very accommodating for a wide array of wrists. So with that said, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, I think this wears really fantastic, very centered. And again, very svelte thanks to those organic lines. A lot of that case is nicely tucked, tapered, and beveled, and it just has a nice flow, sits really well on the wrist. Even with this model with the male end link, you can even see that this is a really well executed male end link. Look at the bevel on that. It's very sharp in terms of that milling there, which is nice because you don't always get that. So it doesn't have that soft look to it. And that center portion that does stick out is actually very nicely proportioned against every center link of the bracelet there. So again, it flows really nice. And I know everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of folks worry about that end link style, the male end link. But there was a time when this was the business and everybody was looking for this because it was the modern look, of course, started by Rolex. And you guys can see, of course, even if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, it'll make the watch seem a little bit more oversized. But thanks to how short and compact that lug to lug is, I mean, come on, it doesn't even look that bad. So typically what I like to do is keep my wrist nice and low, and then you can just get that kind of truer aspect ratio. And then I'll just tighten up the frame here, and then you can get a detailed look. But you can see that it sits a little bit more centered. You get a little bit better perspective on those proportions as they would appear on your wrist versus just how they might look on a wristy where everything's going to appear slightly oversized, right? But of course, we got another watch to look at, the Aventurine dial. My goodness, this thing is gorgeous, guys. And of course, you do have just a little bit of a busier style there with that Jubilee bracelet. And it looks good, though. It looks good. It flows. It doesn't look overdone. And I think, of course, that dial is beautiful. And it is kind of a hallmark of the microbrand space. People love these dials because, they kind of remind you of space, right? And there's just a bunch of stars and stardust floating around in that inky black and even kind of phases of blues and purples when it comes to that glossy background. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. And some quick points to make. Although the bracelet is beautifully done, it does have a 20 millimeter lug width. So you could swap that out, and I think this would look very nice on a strap thanks to just those lug contours. There's a lot of just visual style there. So if you did want to really kind of dress this watch up, you really do have that option, as well as just individualizing it a little bit more in that, you can add a little bit more of your own personal flair and personality to the piece. But with that said, let's actually get these off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes, check that out. Beautiful, cool blue BGW9, and it's really well applied. And honestly, with all the extra beveling that they did on that dial furniture, you don't even necessarily need the Lume because these are semi-dressy, but it is nice to have, so I got to give them props for that. But again, there's some folks that don't really need these to be having a nice dollop of Lume there on each plop. But I will say, hey, it works for me as an enthusiast and as, also somebody who likes to see a lot of value and feeling like brands are going above and beyond. But one thing I like to work in, of course, is going to be a bit of a low light transition because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. To maybe include a bit of harsh lighting, which simply could expose any types of production defects. All you're going to see, of course, is probably just a little bit of smudging from my fingerprints. But other than that, I mean, these are both pretty immaculate. And these are pre-production. The full production models, I'm sure, will be even nicer. So, that ends up being kind of the case with every other pre-production piece that I've ever witnessed, because of course the tooling, everybody gets better, everything gets better in terms of that quality once they go into production. So these look great, man. That Aventurine dial is just shimmering. Look at that. And then that Fume orange, it is just playing, dancing. So that's a really nice thing here, is as I guess classic as these are, you are still getting a ton of visual interest, which is fantastic. And that's even on these steel bracelets, which I think are going to be ultimately versatile. But if you did want to change things up, throw a different type of strap on there or something, you do have 20mm lugs, which is great. And also one thing to note is that both of these bracelets are going to, even though they're totally different styles and they do differ in the end link type, female versus male end link, they do have the same clasp and they also do have the same taper. So they're going to taper from 20mm down to about 15.8, and then the clasp is going to be 18.5mm. So in terms of, hey, which one's going to be more comfortable, which one's going to be more proportional, you get this kind of the same thing, and it's more of just a choice of style. And then, you know, in terms of sizing, right, shorter links are available on the J style versus the O style. So, you know, there's that. But in terms of having that nice balanced proportional taper, then you're going to get that, which is fantastic. So closing thoughts for me, guys, on the wrist, really perfect proportions, very comfortable and balanced wear. In terms of model variants, guys, there are 12 different dial options that be configured, you know, with either bracelet option, you know, for about, you know, at least 24 different combinations that I can think of. Maybe let me know in the comments below if my math doesn't check out. Definitely check the site links for details if there is a certain dial and bracelet combination that you are most interested in. In terms of comparable models, guys, these even undercut comparable microbrands, which is wild because microbrands, they all share one thing, is that they don't have a whole lot of heritage, so they have to make up for that, right, by going that extra mile, by having a little bit more design detail or upper specifications in terms of the choice of movement, the choice of clasp, the choice of crystal. And yeah, even against other micro brands, this is still, you know, undercutting them and being cheaper by comparison, while being additional levels cheaper than mainstream big brand competitors, right? Like if you think about this versus Certina, Mito, Hamilton, Tissot, you know, Seiko, a Citizen, this is going to be undercutting them in terms of the level of spec that you're getting and the level of execution for money. So for me, guys, bottom line, while their first model, the Origin Diver, felt a bit more specific and maybe even niche, the Ascent really feels super versatile by comparison, with a wide array of options that deliver different looks, even beyond just the color palette. Again, depending on which dial type you go with, it can really make these watches feel very different. And then you add to the fact that you can choose between these two very iconic style of bracelets, or throwing it on, you know, an even more personalized leather strap or NATO strap option. But let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please leave a like, and if you're already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.